All right, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for coming back here to the Mystical Rebel channel on YouTube. Um, I wanted to continue my trend that I've started of sort of reacting and debunking the content that I find that falls under the New Age, the paranormal, or occult conspiracy. In this case, I think this video falls under occult conspiracy. So we're going to go ahead and watch this video from a couple days ago. It's actually not that old. Yep, streamed 2 days ago. It says here. Well, at least as of this recording, which today is March 13th. This was streamed 2 days ago, so March 11th. Tonight, the rise of Satanism. This is from the Reveal report. If we take a look at this gentleman's content here, he appears to be basically doing kind of what the John Ramirez guy was doing, exposing and that's exposing the occult and the esoteric and witchcraft and stuff like that. It says reporting on the esoteric world of the fringe, the occult, and the paranormal. And the paranormal. We discuss biblical giants. It doesn't like he doesn't have much video, but he has several live streams. Yeah, his live streams is where he does most of his content. So the one we're watching is his most recent, but he's got Legends of the Occult, Rasputin, Blavatsky, King Solomon. I wouldn't put Rasputin or even Blavatsky in that, but whatever. A Super Bowl halftime show, occult decode, celebrity decodes for Madonna, and more. So yeah, he seems to be on the occult conspiracy train. So right up our alley for what we do here on the Mystical Rebel. So yeah, we will be watching tonight the rise of Satanism, and I'll be reacting and giving in occultists, current occultists, because these guys, because there's going to be two people on here, I believe. The main host, and then I believe a young lady, or maybe not so young, but a lady, Jessie Czebotar, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce her name. But yeah, they former occultists. So they claim to be former occultists, and they're going to be revealing, but we're going to see how much they actually reveal, and how truthful it is, and if there's any sort of foundation. So if you are new here, please do like and subscribe, follow me. Also, most of my content, and I go live multiple times during the week, is over on TikTok. So please do follow me over on TikTok. The handle is the same as here, The Mystical Rebel. I'm also on Twitch, also The Mystical Rebel, and my website, themysticalrebel.com as well. But yeah, if you're new here and you're not familiar with what we do, what I do is I fight against and correct the lies, the misinformation, and the deception put out by the New Age, the paranormal, and the occult conspiracy communities. And I do this by utilizing esoteric and occult wisdom, knowledge, philosophy, and in some cases, theology. So what we're going to be doing tonight is basically fighting against and correcting the misinformation, lies, and deception from the occult conspiracy community. I'm going to be watching this video and giving my reaction from the perspective of an occultist on whatever it is that they're trying to debunk. Funny thing, I literally just noticed this before we even get started, right? Before we even get started, funny thing, I literally just noticed this. Look at this. The cross keys, the papal tiara, and all that, right? This is a grimoire called the Cross Keys. This is the Cross Keys grimoire from Scarlet Imprint by Michael Chizzatelli. And this is a book of magic, right? Witchcraft, sorcery, pious magic, but magic nonetheless. And it's just funny that he's claiming to debunk occultism and debunk magic, but he's got a symbol here that, while yes, it is a Catholic symbol, it's used in occult imagery. But anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. I don't know. This isn't live, so you know we don't really need the chat, or we don't really need to see anything else. So I don't know. Should I play it just like this, or should I do the full screen? What would you guys prefer? I guess let's just do the full screen, and then if I need to like bring up, you know, some foundational evidence or something like that, I'll just, you know, leave the full screen. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's get started. Let's see what they're talking about. Oh, that's very loud in my ear. Let me turn this down.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Reveal Report on this Friday, kicking off the weekend with an amazing topic.
I had to put down
before we get into it, I want to thank all the new subscribers here on YouTube. Almost 40.
If that's still too loud, guys, I mean, I know I'm not live. This is a recording, but that was loud in my ear, so I turned it down from, it was at like 100, because I was actually going to go live on TikTok and show this because I couldn't figure out my mic for Twitch Studio so I can record a video. I couldn't get the mic working, so I was just going to go live on TikTok and like kind of awkwardly, you know, move my camera around to show it, but then I figured out the mic. But yeah, that's why it was up loud, because I was going to show it on TikTok. But yeah, if that's still too loud, let me know in the comments so that way I know like how to gauge the sound when I start.
1,000. It's incredible. Wow. Almost 10,000 on Telegram, 12,000 on Twitter. Also, don't forget, we have Instagram for those that have Instagram. I usually share things on the stories and so forth. But
all right, I'm going to skip through some of this. Yeah, all right. So I'm going to go just a few minutes because he's doing what everybody does, you know, kind of what I did, the introduction, you know, hey, hi, how are you? Like, follow, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to kind of just skip up to when he starts talking to Jessie.
Guys, without further ado, the rise of Satanism. What's going on in today's world?
Yes, what is going on?
What's happening? It's everywhere. And I want to get into it.
Tell us.
I'm going to bring on my co-host
and George.
Author, Miss Jessie Czebotar. Jessie, how are you?
Hey, great, George. Good to see you.
Good to see you. We're going to get into it, the rise of Satanism. Some of the things here we may have touched on in the past. I figure this is a refresher and a reminder because a lot of people are seeing this everywhere. We see it in sports. We see it in music. We see it in entertainment. We see it in politics.
Where do you see it in sports?
Everywhere around the world.
What sports?
So I got to say that one of the key things when I got into the world of the occult is learning about secrets and codes, because they're everywhere. Secrets and codes are everywhere.
Not so much within the occult. Sure, there are like mystery religions and mystery traditions where certain things are only divulged to initiates, but it's not necessarily codes or anything like that. Sure, there's like alchemic art and stuff like that where it might be out and publicly displayed, but only those who practice alchemy and maybe have gone through, some sort of alchemical or soul alchemy transformation might be able to understand. But outside of that, the occult as a whole isn't like the practice of the occult. Symbols are important, you know, like sigils and stuff like that, but they make it seem like it's some sort of grand conspiracy that we're all communicating, you know, via symbols and things like that, and that's not the case at all. Symbols are used to communicate with our subconscious during our magic work or to get in touch with spirits, but really that's more of a Masonic thing to, you know, sort of code things in symbolism, not necessarily an occult thing. But anyway.
And in the world of entertainment, tattoos seem to be a type of code. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe Jesse's wrong on this, and we're jumping, and it could be just our theory and things that we've learned and studied with other individuals, not necessarily with all of who we're discussing.
That's all it is. That's all it is. So I'm like, he tries to put it out there as if, oh yeah, maybe we are wrong, but that's what it is. He gets the truth out of the way, and then he moves into his nonsense. The truth is that it is just your opinion, and we're gonna see that. But yeah, they don't provide any sort of foundation. They don't provide any sort of evidence. They just make a lot of claims. They just say a lot of, I saw this with my own eyes. I was there. I saw it, right? But nothing that you can go out and do and you can repeat. But we'll get into all that. But yeah, this is just their opinion. And on my side of it, because some people could, argue, well, isn't this just your opinion? No, this is not an opinion. There are certain truths, and there are universal truths even within the occult, and these people are not teaching any sort of universal truths. So
discussing, but I will have to put it out there. The fact is, yes, tattoos act as a language, messaging, and I want to begin with Hollywood and the music industry, Jesse. And one of the biggest singers in the world today had a tour that he recently canceled. Quite shocking, actually. And his name is Justin Bieber. And Justin Bieber, here he has a picture showing off one of his tattoos. And I could swear that that's an owl. So
yeah,
there he
It
has
looks like an owl.
an owl.
so
And an
actually-
olive, the Hebrew olive.
Correct. But let's touch on the owl, because the owl is key. Now, many people
Okay.
might think, well, what's the meaning of an owl, George? Well, some say that the owl symbolizes wisdom, also symbolizes mystery and magic. Of course, it might have different subtext in different cultures. It might say it's spiritual guidance. However, that being said, Jesse, this goes back to a representation of Moloch,
Yes.
who is an ancient god and a deity that people would worship and sacrifice to, who is quite prominent in the world of entertainment. So I'll let you touch on that, Jesse.
yes, Jesse, please touch on that.
Yeah.
Oh, did I hit? Sorry.
Moloch worship goes all the way back. We can read it in scripture back in the book of Genesis, where the Lord calls Abraham out of the land of Ur, the land of the Canaanites, because of that fact that they were sacrificing their children to Baal and Moloch on the fire, and that meant other things as well. But it was an occultic practice where, in Exodus, the Lord says, "You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not worship any graven images."
And the owl, there it is on his arm. Again, it could mean
So notice that they didn't make any connection. Now he's not, but you could argue, oh, you paused it right before he was about to do it. We're going to keep watching the video, but they didn't make any connection of Moloch to the owl. They're just saying there's an owl, and it goes back to Moloch, and then she just tells a story in the Bible of Moloch. Didn't mention any owls. Didn't mention any sort of anything like that. But let's take a look. We'll go to Google, and we'll do Moloch deity. Or sorry.
Got it. But first you'll have to unlock your device.
What? Oh, sorry. I said the G word, and my phone, which is an Android, heard me because I haven't turned that off. Okay, so Molech deity. So we'll go to Wikipedia. I know people don't like Wikipedia, but we're not going for anything that it says. We're going for images. I don't see anything dealing with an owl. This one has wings, but that's not an owl. If you think owls have hands and legs and look anything like that, have a mouth, I mean, that's almost a fish. That's almost like an amphibian or like a fish type of mouth. So yeah, it has wings, but this is definitely not an owl. Doesn't look like there's any more images there. So So I don't understand why people consider Moloch to be an owl. This doesn't look like an owl. I mean, like, let's pull it up. Like that does if people are going to go, that's an owl, you guys are nuts. This is not an owl at all. So maybe, like, let's go back and let's so there's this here, but obviously this is a modern day image. There's this, and then there's the owl behind him. And I don't speak Spanish, so I don't know. But other than this image here that keeps getting repeated here, I don't see any images of Moloch being represented by an owl. So, not sure where that comes from. But maybe he'll explain it. He won't, but let's see if he explains.
Wisdom. Interesting. He has another tattoo. And I find it interesting that out of all tattoos anyone could get, he decides to go with all...
The single eye.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Jesse? The all-seeing eye. Imagine out of all the things in the world you could get, you get an all-seeing eye.
Yeah.
Well, I think too, it's the fact that
maybe he thinks the all-seeing eye is cool.
Actually in a joint.
I mean, it's not the all-seeing eye,
which is a very odd place to have it anyway. But
maybe he thinks it's cool.
We both know that that's part of this Brotherhood Luciferian system.
Oh, is it?
That
it's part of the system. Why is he the only? I mean, wouldn't they all be showing off their tattoos and stuff like that, showing off that they all have the all-seeing eye? He seems to be the only one. So this is part of their club. This is part of their system. I don't think so. That
representation of the Eye of Horus to talk or to display the type of magic.
This is not the Eye of Horus. That's another thing. Just because something is a single eye and the Eye of Horus is a single eye doesn't mean it's the Eye of Horus. Like, or else we should be able to say that with any other symbol. Like, with these occult conspiracy theorists, things only seem to be true for the stuff that they say it's true for. But in any other circumstance and where we should be able to apply that same logic, they don't allow it. I should be able to go, anytime I see a check mark type of a symbol, that's the Nike swoosh, right? Anytime I see a check mark, it doesn't mean check or good job or anything like that. It means Nike swoosh. Anytime I see it, it's talking about the goddess Nike or anything like that. Like that, you would say that that's ridiculous. But every time you see one eye, it means the eye, of Horus or the all-seeing eye. That's not ridiculous. Why? Like, come on.
So very interesting.
The owl, very powerful indeed. There's a particular artist, a hip-hop mogul.
Still made no connection to Moloch.
The owl. And his name is Drake. Drake has his own clothing line called OVO, October's Very Own. Mm-hmm. Interesting. It almost is a take on OTO, which is
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
No, it's not. That's another game so they didn't go as far as what I'm about to do, but that's another game that they play where they try to take words that are similar in either English or other languages and try to associate them with each other and things like that. Solomon is son of man, and because Sol is son in Latin, and Mon is man, I guess, in some language, like Jamaican patois or something like that. They don't ever explain how they come to these conclusions. They just say these things, right? The OTO is Latin, Ordo Templi Orientis. It has nothing to do with October Very or Own. Drake was born in October, so. Sure, you could argue, well, why did he choose the owl? But no matter what he would have chosen, they would have associated it with some sort of magic. If he put a shark or anything like that, they would have said, this is representative of Jonah being swallowed by the whale. This is the Jonah and the whales. It's like, no, maybe Drake just likes sharks. Like. Let's keep watching.
And I think that's exactly what this is, but he's changed the T to a V, but I believe he's probably part of one of these groups. Of course, the owl, again, it could mean wisdom, ladies and
Wow. So he really thinks that OVO, October's Very Own, is a group thing? Is this like... Is this guy dumb? Are we going to really have to prove Drake born October 24th? October. Like this is what I'm this is the problem with these occult conspiracy theorists. They don't do it. It would have taken it took me 2 seconds. Now, of course, I'm going into a explanation of things, so yes, it's going to be more than 2 seconds, but most people aren't, doing a video when they're searching things up online. It took me 2 seconds to Google that and scroll down and look at the content over here. 2 seconds. He must be part of one. I think OVO is like OTO, and he's probably part of one of these groups. No, he's born in October. October's Very Own. Stop it, dude. Like it's the mental gymnastics needed to be an occult conspiracy theorist is insane. It's insane.
and gentlemen, or it could be Moloch. What can it be? Well,
Why
this
would it
has
be
made a
Moloch?
huge impact on his life, Jesse, because here he is sporting his tattoo of an owl on his chest.
But George,
That's-
we know that tattoo also represents something else.
If his brand OVO is represented by an owl, then, and it's his brand, then getting a tattoo of your brand, which a lot of people, especially in the urban community, do. You would be surprised at how many people have tattoos of their brand that they either started or a brand that they are intimately a part of. They might not have started it, but they may be instrumental in it. Or even just gang members getting tattoos of their gang, which I guess in street lingo and on the streets would be a brand, right? That's not a weird thing, especially in urban communities. Now these two don't look like they know much about the urban community. So, there's, maybe they do a pass for certain things. But yeah, just because he has an owl on his chest doesn't mean anything. And again, unless you can find me groups of other celebrities that also have owls on their chest or, one eye tattoos, and they're showing them off and things like that as part of this club, then you've got no case. This is all circumstantial evidence, which we all know never holds up in court. No judge is going to convict anybody on circumstantial evidence. Oh, Your Honor, I think this guy murdered someone. Why? Why do you think he murdered someone? Well, because he has a bumper sticker of a certain symbol. And that symbol is the same symbol that in the 1500s, this group of assassins used to use. And he's got it on a bumper sticker on his car. Come to find out that the bumper sticker is for a musician that he likes, or a clothing brand that might have used that symbol or something like that. Nothing to do with murder or assassinations or anything like that. But that's what these people pull out of things. It's ridiculous. But let's continue.
In the magic world.
Here he is again.
You've got
Absolutely. Go ahead. Get into it, Jesse.
Aleister Crowley with the wings.
Mhm.
Yep.
So
what?
these guys are using this stuff
Oh my god.
to signal. And they're letting people know.
That's a very out there connection. That's a very loose connection. Just anything to connect it to the occult. Anything, right? And what's funny is that they only talk about it's here's the crazy thing. There are actually celebrities who are actually part of occult groups and are open about it. They don't get talked about. It's the funniest thing. Kehlani, the singer, the R&B singer Kehlani, she is a part of an ADR. I want to say Santeria, but please don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but I believe it's Santeria. She She was crowned fall of 2022, I believe. Any of our fans, please correct me. I'm probably wrong with the date, but I saw the images on her Instagram in October, and they were very, very recent. It wasn't like they were like a month or 2 months ago. They were like that month. And it was of her celebration party for her getting crowned. She posted her like initiation after pics on Instagram of her initiation into an occult tradition. No one saying, like, where are the occult conspiracy theorists? No one saying anything. Not that they should, because what she did is a beautiful, wonderful thing. But that's to us, to people in the know. But to these occult conspiracy theorists, that would be evil and of the devil. And so where are they? Azalea Banks was well known over the last several years for going on Twitter and Instagram and posting videos of her altar where she would offer blood sacrifice. She would sacrifice chickens and things like that. And she would show the blood stains on the floor, the blood stains on the altar, in the cups, in the bowls. Nobody said nothing about that. Well, occult conspiracy theorists didn't say anything about it. There was plenty of people who were saying things, but none of them were occult conspiracy theorists. Most people were praising it, as they should, because there's nothing evil or wrong with any of that. And all these occult conspiracy theorists can say is, well, God says it's wrong. Where? In your 1611 King James Version of the Bible? Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy came out in 1533, some 70, 80 years before your King James. Now what? What does the original Greek and Hebrew say? But anyway, end rant. Continue with the
Who's
video.
who, what's what, here's who I am. And not only did the logo become his representation, but he inked it on his own body. Now, for those who aren't aware or may have seen some of our shows, just so you're aware, most and almost everyone very high up in the system does not have a tattoo. Maybe you could get into that just a little bit more, Jesse, to explain.
Now, granted, if we're talking Illuminati, and if you believe in all that, I don't believe in any sort of Illuminati, but for this moment, let's say that they're real. Obviously, there's levels to this shit, right? And someone like Drake would not be anywhere near the top of the actual people behind the world that are pulling the strings, you know, the real money people, the people who own the labels that he's on, and the people who own the parent company of the label that he's on, and so on and so forth, right? The trillionaires of the world, the people who aren't on Forbes, who have more money than, you know, the people who are known to be Forbes 400 and all that other stuff, right? But in the entertainment industry, especially in hip hop, Drake is the top. He is currently right now. He as of this current recording, no matter how you feel about it, the numbers don't lie. Whether you like his music or not, the numbers don't lie. Drake is the top artist in hip hop right now. They don't seem to know that, because they're like, well, the people at the top don't have tattoos and stuff like that. Drake is the highest, like, grossing, like highest paid off of just music, at least from a non-ownership standpoint. Obviously, if you're an owner like Rick Ross or Jay-Z, where you're a rapper but you also, you know, own your own label and stuff like that, you know, you might make a little more money. But from just rapping and shows and stuff like that, Drake's in the top spot. They don't seem to know that. So to say that people in the top wouldn't have tattoos, and Drake is at the top, is a little oxymoronish. Because they certainly aren't talking about the billionaires and the trillionaires that own the companies. They're talking about the celebrities. So,
The meaning of no tattoos on those higher up in the system.
Yeah, those at the highest levels, you're not allowed to get them because you can't have anything marked on your body. They don't want people to know that, you know, the high level that you are. They don't want others to know that you're engaged in magics.
that doesn't make any sense. If you're telling us right now that they don't get tattoos, that would let us know that they're in the high, like that would tell us that. Just because someone has a tattoo doesn't mean that they're in anything. I've got several tattoos. I'm not part of any group or gang or coven or temple or company or mercenarial group or whatever. Like, what? That does not make any sense. They're just making things up as they talk.
So they don't allow tattoos at the highest levels.
So there you go. So those underneath, are not at a high level.
There you go.
Because they're tattooed.
Nothing was
and they're not supposed
said,
to be.
was taught.
Again, I mean, the owl
Whatever.
can mean anything. But let's take the Super Bowl, for instance. And Super Bowl, actually, the word is superb owl. That's what Super Bowl
All
really
right.
is.
Wait.
Superb.
Wait. Super Bowl is superb owl. This is what they're telling us right now. Do you recall earlier when I said that they try to do things in English where they use false word association? Super Bowl is superb owl. That doesn't. What about the World Cup, which is the biggest sporting event in the world? You would think that if any place was going to have a name that had any esotericness in it, it would be the World Cup. So what's the World Cup? Up. Like, if this is superb owl, then World Cup must be world up. Like, that doesn't make, like, come on. Now, here's where in the chat, not in the chat, I'm thinking I'm live. I'm so used to being live on TikTok. In the comments, someone's going to try to do gematria for World Cup or something like that and try to figure out, see, it does mean, Hail Satan or something like that, even though gematria in its original form was never meant to be a calculation for anything other than proper names. That's names of people, not places, not things, not objects, not events, people and people only. But that's neither here nor there. Superb owl is what they want to tell us that the Super Bowl means. Like, and I guess NBC must stand for never been Christian or never be Christ or never bow down to Christ or something like where does it stop, right? That's crazy. For me to say, oh, this means never been Christian, that's crazy. You're nuts. But superb owl is logical and believable. Like, come on, guys. Come on. Superb owl. Has there ever in the history of the Super Bowl been owl symbolism at the Super Bowl itself? Not for like one of the commercials they can't help but afford, which has no connection to the Super Bowl, or a cell phone company, or a computer company, or whatever companies, a chip company, a soda company, buys spots during the Super Bowl for ads. They can't help it if they put owls in their commercials. They, the football commission or whatever. I don't know who runs the show there, but they don't have any connection and have any say with what these companies can put in their ads. So, as outside of the ads, because I'm sure since the beginning of the Super Bowl, someone's going to go on YouTube and watch all the commercials, all the ads, all the way through from the first Super Bowl all the way till now, and find that one commercial from 1984 that had an owl in it, right? Okay, but at the Super Bowl itself, when have owl images or owl representation, owl worship ever been front and center? Come on. But let's continue.
Super, the B, bull, superb, owl. We have sports. We have music. We have movies. I mean, you'll see the owl depicted in many movies. Cartoons, teen movies, action movies. It'll be everywhere, just on a wall, a statue, everywhere. Out of all things the set designer could use, he chose an owl because they're signaling, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's happening. Hollywood is filled with it.
Where?
Let's go on to another superb owl.
Did I miss something? Where? I don't see an owl. What are you talking about? These are palm trees, California, not Florida. This is probably like Rodeo Drive or something. I mean, not Rodeo Drive. When you're coming past the Beverly Hills sign, you see all, like the Beverly Hills Hotel and all that. You see all the palm trees, but I don't see an owl. Where? So what set designer? What representation is he talking about?
Action movies, it'll be everywhere, just on a wall, a statue, everywhere. Out of all things the set designer could use, he chose an owl because they're signaling, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's happening. Hollywood is filled with it.
No, they're not.
Let's go on
anything.
to another tattoo. Very popular in women. Very popular in women.
I will admit that 90% of the time, if not more, something that ends up on camera, on screen, is meant to be there. So yes, there, if you are watching a movie or a TV show that might not seem to have occult or esoteric elements, and there's esoteric or occult imagery, that might make you think of some weird things, but I urge you to study film analysis to understand not just, film, but like how films are written, and like what goes into developing a story. There's different layers, just because, on the surface, it seems like just, a game of cat and mouse, killer victim type of a thing. There's underlying psychological games going on there. And maybe the killer is interested in occultism, but maybe you're not supposed to know that right away. So maybe the writer and the director, are planting Easter eggs for future episodes, or maybe if it's a movie, a sequel or something like that, right? You have to understand film analysis. Film really is an art. It's you can literally interpret film like how people, which I don't understand. I get film completely, but I do not understand people standing in a museum and looking at a painting and then somehow, there's just this outpour of emotion and feeling and visions that they have and all. I don't get that, but that's what art does to you, right? If he understood how film works, he wouldn't feel this way. Or he's just, maybe he does understand how film works and he's willfully, consciously being this way. But there's many layers to film and how things are written and and how things are displayed and shown on screen. And it just seems like he's just not aware. So,
is this tattoo a butterfly? And this is the world famous Drew Barrymore, who did E.T.
the Monarch?
And
this is Monarch programming.
Charlie's Angels, famous actress. Again, maybe she just wore that butterfly, Jesse, because it stood for her.
Maybe she likes butterflies, George.
She could like butterflies.
Why couldn't she like
Ariana
butterflies?
Grande, another one with the butterfly. But please, for those that may not have.
The problem with this theory is go to your local mall. Go to your local mall and look at how many people have butterflies. Oh, you want to say, the people are influenced by Ariana Grande? Look at the moms. Look at the aunts, even some of the grandmoms. You'd be surprised at how many 40, 45 plus people now that are 40, 45 plus have tattoos from when they were young, when there was no Ariana Grande. Drew Barrymore was around back then, but I'm pretty sure she didn't have a tattoo of a butterfly when she was 12. So, a butterfly is a very common symbol for young women or common image, I should say, not symbol. It is a very common image for young women to get who want to get tattoos but don't want to get like a full sleeve or a giant image. If they just want something simple but they want more than just the little hearts that people do on their finger or something like that. They want more than that, but they don't want, like half a sleeve like I have on both my arms. They don't want, something that big. A butterfly is a very common thing. Are you saying that all these regular girls all have Monarch programming trauma? Like they're all being abused at home? Like, come on, stop it.
Seen some past shows. Please explain the meaning of the butterfly as a tattoo for this elite celebrity world.
Yes, give us a 20-second. Just say, oh yes, the butterfly means this, and then that's it. Just shrug your shoulders and yep, that's what the butterfly means, and just call it a day.
Butterflies represent the Monarch programming, or also those who are MK Ultra'd. So that's what it represents.
See?
So for those who don't know, the
A
monarch
20-second,
program, of course,
like,
is the
come on.
MK Ultra, kind of like
And people, like, if we go through the comments, like, people believe this. Like, people are like, thank you so much, George and Jesse. I got head to toe mega body chills listening to Dengel's speech. Huge body chills, blah, 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 blah. That's about the speech at the end. Love all these videos. Been a fan of Jesse's for years. I found her on the Dark Outpost. She's opened that book of secrets and let the world know what happens at those rituals with intimate details. No, I promise you she did not. This is the first time I'm hearing about her, but I, as an occultist and being someone who's been in the occult for 20 years, in both what the outsiders, what the non-initiates would call white magic, and what the non-initiates call black magic, and what some may call the middle path and the middle way or whatever. That stuff doesn't really exist in real occultism. I guess, yes, people do still use the terms white and black magic, but most of us understand that balance is key, and that magic is pretty much just a tool, like a hammer, and it can be used for good or bad. So there really is no black magic or white magic. It's just the intent and the purpose behind it. But I promise you, she did not open a book of secrets and exposed what happened at those rituals. No, she didn't. She didn't. So, yeah, people are eating this up. They're just eating all of this up. It's insane. But anyway, let's get back to it.
slaves type thing in Hollywood. They're controlled. They have controllers. We call them handlers because they're handled. These handlers could come in different forms. And again, it could be just nice tattoos, but it seems to me very interesting in Hollywood.
Handlers in Hollywood come in two forms: your manager or your agent. The only other handler could, I guess, like be your mom or like a parent, but usually they end up being your manager. Your manager or your agent is usually your handler. Nothing secret about that. Just maybe read a book or two on how Hollywood works. Maybe go watch like Entourage or something. Like maybe understand how Hollywood works. Maybe look behind the curtain for real, not conspiracy behind the curtain. Maybe go here on YouTube and watch a couple of behind the scenes. Like maybe watch a couple of B-rolls and see what it's like to be on a set. See what it's, understand that like it's not magical. It's actually quite technical, and there's no rituals going on. There's a lot of rehearsals and practice, and I don't understand. Whatever.
Hollywood, a lot of singers and actresses have these butterflies, and they seem to be the ones that
A lot of
always
regular people have these
are
butterflies.
in some type of controlled mechanism in the world, what they can and cannot do. Another
If this guy has any young daughters, or if he has grown daughters and his daughter, or even sons, but they have young daughters that are, of age appropriate to have tattoos, I'm sure if he were to ask his son to ask his daughter to talk to her friends and see how many have butterfly tattoos, or just ask random girls around her school, like, or her campus, if she's in college or whatever, who has a butterfly tattoo, I'm quite sure a lot of them would have it. Or I guess they're all also mind controlled, right?
Other interesting tattoo, of course, is Rihanna. Of course, she's going after the Egyptian goddess here. Jesse, I'll give you two guesses. You only need one.
Isis or Ashtaroth.
There you go. And that's her representation because that's who she will worship. Now,
Ashtaroth is a demon, not Egyptian. Is she trying to say like Isis and Astarte, and then trying to make a connection from Astarte to Ashtaroth? But whatever.
now, this is one big happy cult. Even though there are, we call cell groups, different sectors in different parts of the world, different groups, so forth, and they may, make pacts with different entities. In the end, it's all the same. There's only one in charge, and that's the big chief, and everyone else is under them. But it seems that these celebrities This is
Notice that they haven't talked about any like rituals that these celebrities are doing, any like actual covens or groups that they're part of. He did just mention cells, but like different cells, but he didn't mention any names. Nothing specific. Just look at these tattoos. Not, oh, here's a video of Drake going into a known, witchcraft temple, or even like a Masonic temple, or any, nothing that even could be slightly incriminating to, when it comes to the accusation of magic and witchcraft. Nothing. Like, come on.
is what they do. They make these deals, Jesse, and they sell their soul. You've heard the story. They sell their soul for fame and fortune. They sell their soul to accomplish their dreams. I know very well about this.
They sold their soul for rock and roll. What's that guy? That if you go on YouTube, you can find the documentary. It's called, I think, They Sold Their Soul for Rock and Roll, and the host is a pastor, and he talks like this, and they sold their soul for rock and roll, and here's my proof. Marilyn Manson is a Satan worshiper because he's quoted in his song saying, and I quote, "My name is Marilyn Manson and I am a Satan worshiper." It's like, like,
and there's a lot of people in Hollywood who did it. Some have confessed to it, but people say, George, come on, maybe you heard
no
it.
one's confessed to.
Maybe you sat in, maybe you understand. Well, where's the proof in this?
Yes, show us
Is there
proof.
anyone ever in the history ever talked about this in public? The answer is yes. Many, actually.
Many,
but
show
I
us
found
just
a video
one,
of
maybe
someone
two.
Specifically
You
that
say
gets
many,
into
but
it.
give us
so I'm
one
going
or
to show
two.
you a very quick clip of a very
Can you give
famous
us
singer
10?
by the name
No.
of Bob Dylan, who was on 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
And listen carefully to what he has to say. Turn up your
Everyone
volume.
knows
Here it
knows
is.
this clip. This is old.
Why do
old
you
as
still
hell.
do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, the destiny thing.
I made a bargain
I
with
made
it
a bargain with it
long time ago.
long time ago, and I'm holding up my end
What was your bargain?
to get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
It was with the chief commander.
with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And in this earth, and then in a world we can't see.
On this earth,
So what makes him think that that's the devil or anything like that? Is God not the chief commander? Does he not rule over a world over this world and the world that we can't see? Right? Because if he means the devil, then he was wrong when he said he's the chief commander of this world and the world we can't see. Because according to their religion, these two here, Satan or Lucifer, whichever one you want to call him from a Christian perspective, would be the prince of the power of the air. He would be the lord of this world, but that's it, not of the world we can't see. God rules over all, even hell. That's why he went through the harrowing of hell and overcame death. So, but see, when you actually get into theology, that's when these guys start to shut you down. They start to block you. They start to mute you. And they start to tell you that that's not what we're here to do. We're here to do, we're here just to talk about the rise of Satanism, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but you're making claims and you can't back them up. And then when someone who can, defend their position makes, their case, you want to block or mute them. So, whatever.
in a world we can't see. Now, I can tell you he's not referring to God.
Why not?
Right?
And Bob Dylan, of course, did make it famous, had a great run. His son also got into the music business. He's still touring.
Why
We
is
asked
he
him
not
why.
talking about God, though?
Because of his bargain, his deal that he made.
Yeah, but why is he not talking
Evidence
about God?
publicly. Many have also touched on this, but it's interesting.
Notice, they do this all the time. They make a claim, and they just skirt past it. They just make a claim and just move on. There's no... and here's how I know he wasn't talking about God. Because of this, and that. Nope, there's just... And I can tell you he's not talking about God. And moving on to our next topic, it's like, can you elucidate on anything that you're saying, or are we just going to make claims? But
Jesse,
I'm
that they
an
said
asshole for
public.
pointing out that they're just making claims, right?
They said it. He
Yeah.
confessed to it. And that's a singer. What about actors, Jesse? Actors. I mean, we see tattoos, we hear about them, but is there any kind of wording, any type of proof? Well,
I think there is.
there's lots, actually. And I just found a 7-second clip, and this speaks for itself. So this is Christian Bale
Sure, it does.
winning the award. I believe it's the Oscar. Take a look.
Thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration on how to play this role.
I'm going to play that one more time. That's
Okay.
him.
He is aware that actors are entertainers, right? They are in the entertainment industry. So forgive an actor for entertaining an audience after he wins an award. He made a little joke. Seems to have worked. Because you're talking about him. Isn't that why people in Hollywood do anything, really? To be noticed, to get more mentions and to get more views and to get more, clout or whatever. You think he was serious when he was up there? Right? It's so funny. They'll say that when they're talking about something that's clearly a joke, that they're serious. But then they'll say that when they're talking about something serious, like if they're in an interview and they're being asked about their religion, and they might mention, a Christian beliefs or something like that, they'll say that they're lying. It doesn't make any sense. There's no scenario where these people are ever, where these two and other people like them, occult conspiracy theorists, which are mainly Christian, but there's no scenario where they're wrong. There's no scenario where they are wrong. Of course, they'll always say, I'm open to being wrong. I could be wrong, like he did at the beginning. But they don't actually believe that. They don't. That's just something to say to sort of make an escape route for themselves. They don't actually believe that. But let's keep listening.
Thanking Satan.
Thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration on how to play this role.
He thanked Satan, Jesse. So the rise of Satanism is everywhere. It's in music. It's in sports.
You gave us
it's
two,
in
maybe
film.
three examples, and it's
also in
everywhere.
politics.
Like, come on.
And it's getting into the school boards. And there's a new thing going on right now, ladies and gentlemen, and it's quite alarming because of what's happening. But basically, there's an after-school club to worship Satan.
Oh my God.
Yes, there is. And Jesse.
So before he even gets into this, I already know what he's talking about. He's not. First of all, he said this is a new thing. It's not new. This is years old. I remember hearing about this 3, 4, maybe even 5 years ago. So this isn't a new thing. And number two, he's not giving you the full story. This is not all across the country. This is not, every school, every elementary and, whatever school is going to have this. This is only happening in a certain state, in a certain county. That's it. It's not even across the entire state. It's not I don't.
Jesse Waters at Fox touched on it and he talked about it a little bit. I want to share a clip of the news so you can understand this is very real. And they're pushing and they're pushing and they're pushing. So take a look. Here it is.
Yeah,
Jesse Waters on Fox talking about a new club for your children opening up after school. Here it is.
Yeah.
When I was a young tot kicking back in the class, everybody looked forward to the after-school program. Drama club was for anybody who wanted to be the next Brad Pitt. Debate club, the people aspiring to be the next Supreme Court justice, but I wasn't really a club guy.
The next screw that falls out is going to be you.
Eat my shorts.
What was that?
Eat my shorts.
But whichever club you chose, it was to make you a better person. You know, help
That was
you
a
make
weird
friends,
clip to
expand
show.
your
That was a
horizons.
weird clip.
And today, there's a new program that has been trying to take hold in our schools. Satan clubs. One Virginia town is already seeing it firsthand. B.M. Williams Primary School has introduced the After School Satan Club, organized by the
one
Satanic
school.
Temple. The club promotes
It's
activities
running rampant
centered
all
around
over the
seven
world.
fundamental tenets of Satanism. These tenets are the satanic equivalent of the Ten Commandments. And this obviously has upset parents. One mom spoke to Fox. Watch.
This was truly when parents showed up. It had a record turnout. Parents in opposition were the majority turnout, overwhelming majority turnout. When we're discussing Satan clubs in our public schools, we are failing our children. We are failing our children. These are frightening images. It's a frightening ideology. It's the responsibility of the adults in the room to stand up and speak.
So I do agree that Satanism should not be taught to children. Even though I am an occultist and I know what Satanism is, I do not think that Satanism should be taught to children. And I mean children, like elementary school. If you know, when you're middle school, high school, you know, you're technically you're still a child, but you're older and you know you're able to comprehend spiritual things a little better and able to formulate questions and have your own real opinions and stuff like that. Maybe then, but not children in elementary school. I do agree with that. However, there's nothing frightening about Satanism unless you just want to talk about the imagery, because yes, Satanists do go over the top with their imagery and they do it on purpose, right? And I feel like almost all Satanists are just edgelords, like especially the atheistic Satanists. Just be an atheist. I don't understand why you have to throw the Satanist. You're just trying to be edgy and trying to be different and cool, and it's not. But anyway, this isn't about atheistic Satanism. But yeah, I don't think there's any frightening ideology there. They don't teach anything evil or bad. But I don't think it should be taught to children. Just like I don't think any sort of religion should be taught to children. But certainly not Satanism. And that includes occultism as a whole. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I guess maybe they could use or learn, little basics of like magic and stuff like that. But it can get super complex and super deep. And I wouldn't know how to teach a child about occultism. So I guess, maybe there is a way to do it properly. But
Speak up for the parents. We have to do better.
I get it. We don't want Satan being promoted to our children. Primetime's been covering these Satanists for a while. A few months ago, I don't know if you remember, we went to SatanCon to find out what these people are all about.
Satan represents carnal desire.
What does Satan look like?
Me?
Satan looks like whatever you want Satan to look like in your mind.
The biggest misconception about Satanism is...
See, and that's another thing I don't like. That's New Age with a darker twist, right? Just Satan is whatever you want him to look like, just whatever. So then how do you know you're getting in touch with, like let's say that these people really were doing things to try to, I mean, these seem to be atheistic Satanists. So let's say that they were theistic Satanists and they were doing things to really get in touch with Satan. If Satan is whatever I want him to be, then how do I know it's Satan? If there's no consistency, then how do I know that I'm talking to the same being that you were talking to? It's Fluffy Bunny, just on the darker side. And Jake Stratton Kent, before he passed, talked about this. About 2 years before he passed, he made a post on Facebook about some advice to his younger self or to younger people. And the top one, I think, the very first one was, stay away from the light, fluffy stuff. So the New Age, love and light, and I'm channeling your Galactic Federation angels and all that stuff, as well as staying away from the dark fluff. Just because something is, looks evil or mean doesn't mean that it's, not New Agey. And these guys are coming up very, Satan's whatever you want him to be, whatever in your mind, just whatever you can think of. That's just who Satan is. It's like, no.
that we sacrifice children We eat babies, and we don't like kittens, and that could be the farthest from the truth. We love kittens. We love babies.
Oh, so they like kittens. What else are they about?
Pause
a bit
there
of
for a
play
moment.
on words there.
Correct. So they say we don't do sacrifices, we don't eat children.
Play on words. What, kitten for pussy? What play on words? They didn't. What do you mean? Come on.
And it goes on. These people are liars, or they're on the very low end of the totem pole, which she seems to be.
You're the liar. Number one, you've not given. I mean, she's not anybody in any high ranking of anything. Obviously, she seems to be an atheistic Satanist who doesn't know much about anything. But these people, these two, are the liars. As we've shown many times throughout the 20 minutes this video has been playing, and the hour or so that we've been going here, they make a lot of claims but don't give any sort of background, any sort of foundation. They take things way out of context. They just, Drake's a Satanist because he has an owl. That's it. The owl. Simple as that. It's like, come on, bro. So they're lying, you're lying. Or she's on the low end, she's not on the end of anything. She's not part of anything. She's some, and I'm not trying to be mean here, but she's some nobody Satanist. Like, she's like, stop it. Stop it.
Very on the low end of the totem pole and has absolutely no friggin' clue what she's talking about when it comes to those very high up.
Neither do you.
In the occult world.
Neither do you.
Disgusting. And they're liars. And I'm going to share
You're
with
disgusting.
you
And you're a liar.
Documentary from 60 Minutes. It's a clip, Jesse. Get your comments on this. Just to show you how real this is, folks. And then you can take what that girl said, that it's lies, and tell me what you think. Take a listen. Here it is.
To describe this story as horrifying would be an understatement. And if that sounds like a warning, then that's exactly what it's meant to be. It deals with the sexual abuse of children by satanic cults. And not only that, human sacrifices.
The satanic panic. So, I mean, this clearly looks like it was done in the 80s. So for those who don't know what that is, the satanic, and it's interesting that they this is the heptameron circle, or is that the Hornerius circle? This looks like the circle used in the heptameron, not with the eye, but this outer rim here. But anyway, for those of you who aren't familiar, the satanic panic was back in the late 80s, early 90s. There was a slew of accusations against various daycare centers across both the United States and the UK, and I think maybe even one in Canada, that accused various daycare teachers and owners of running satanic cults out of their basements, and the children would have stories of, them being taken into the basement and through tunnels and these rituals being done to them, blah blah blah. And a lot of teachers got fired, a lot of daycares got shut down, but when the investigations were all said and done, turns out it was nothing but like mass hysteria. The kids were being coaxed and coached by investigators, by parents, by the media, to believe and to say these things. Turns out that they ruined countless number of lives, countless businesses, shut them down, simply on just really, let's call it religious hate. There was no evidence, and not even is there no evidence that those things were happening. There's no evidence that that's ever happened. There is no evidence that that's ever happened. Where is it written down? We have plenty of evidence of sacrifice from history, child sacrifice, and adult sacrifice of humans, and blah blah. We don't have anything that states that practitioners of occultism, right? Not specific groups of religions that aren't Christian, right? Because just because you're not a Christian doesn't mean that you're a witch or that you're a wizard or a shaman or something like that. specifically for occultists, right? Written by occultists for occultists. There is nothing out there that instructs you on harming children or harming another human being in order to get some sort of a magical reaction or response. And no one can show me any evidence of it. You can show me a bunch of conspiracy videos on YouTube. You can show me a bunch of conspiracy books written by conspiracy theorists that might make a claim, but they don't have any evidence. They don't have any evidence of any, and I've shown on, not on here. This is one of the few videos I've put on my YouTube so far. But I go live on TikTok quite a bit. I have a pretty extensive library, both physical and PDF copies of books. I have some pretty diabolical books on my shelf. Some pretty evil, satanic, Luciferian texts. And none of them require you to harm anybody, animal, human, adult, baby. Where is this stuff written down? Where is it? Where is this written down? It's not. It's not. There is no evidence of this. Ancient Canaanites sacrificing children to Moloch has nothing to do with occultism. That was their religion. They weren't witches. They weren't shamans. They weren't wizards and sorcerers and necromancers. Maybe there were certain people in their community that did do that, just like there were within the Jewish community, the Hebrews and all that. They had their witches and things too. But as a whole, worshippers of Moloch weren't witches or wizards or shamans or necromancers or anything. They were following their religion. You can't connect that to occultism. Christianity and Judaism have more of a connection to occultism than Moloch worship. But
as well. We started investigating these secret satanic cults when a British member of Parliament linked them with the ritual murder of children. In this day and age, it sounded too far-fetched, as did suggestions that the same thing might be happening in Australia. But then we met Teresa. She's only 15, and for 12 of those years, she's been the victim of relentless depravity. Teresa's story is both shocking and compelling, yet it's a story she's anxious to tell. But again, we should warn you that parts of this report may be distressing.
Friends of the family.
I should warn you that the entirety of this report is false. And I'm sorry, I know we just heard that she's 15, and so people, oh, you're picking. Well, she's not. Obviously, she's not 15 anymore. This was obviously 45 years ago. But this is fake. I'm sorry. She's. I don't want to speak too ill of. I mean, she's obviously not a child anymore, but how people in the comments can be. So I don't want to be too harsh, but this is not valid. But
and strangers and my family used to rape me, make me abort the babies I had.
It would be hard to imagine more misery and suffering than what Teresa says she's had to endure.
And us kids would be made to do.
They made you abort the babies you had, so there should be scarring in your uterus that we should be able to. Surely you've released that proof, right? No, you didn't do that. We just have to believe you, right? And I'm not asking for that specifically, but why should we believe you? Because it's such a sad story. Why should we believe you? Even with the proven cases where wealthy people were abducting and doing things to children, like the Dutroux affair in Belgium, there was no Satanism attached to that. That's just rich people being weird. So where is the occultism? Even with so-and-so's island, who I don't want to say his name, but the guy who had the island, who was recently, over the last couple of years, found unalived in his cell. There was no occultism attached to that. People tried to be like, oh, what's that little temple on the island there? But a reach. There was no occult attached to that. That was just a weird, wealthy guy connecting with other weird, wealthy people to do weird, wealthy people things. That happened to be very illegal and very immoral. But where's the occultism? Where's the devil worship? Where's the witchcraft? It's not there. But maybe she'll tell us where it is.
Things with the adults and the animals. And then a sacrifice would happen.
The sacrifice, were these animal sacrifices?
Animals and people.
On what scale do you think this was happening?
Enormous. Far beyond what we've ever heard of here before.
Teresa's mother, Bridget. You're talking about mass murder.
Yes. On a scale that this country's never heard of before.
Sure.
They don't sacrifice, Jesse. You heard that woman in the Jesse Waters show. They don't hurt babies, but this girl said that they were raped. And they would kill people.
So you're using two highly unreliable sources and using them as your base? That's what you're like... Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Two highly unreliable sources.
She is, or the Satanist on Jesse Waters' show talking about it?
Both of them
You
are
understand
lying.
these people are liars.
Yes, all
and
of
now
them,
they want your
including
children to
you.
be part of an after-school Satan club.
Both
So
that
you need to
weird
stand up
atheist
for
Satan
those
girl
children.
and
You need to stand up for your
Teresa
community. You
and
need
you
to
guys.
stand up for those that don't have the power to stand up for themselves. So you need to go to these schools. Now they're obviously scared, so let me update
And
you.
of course, let me say, obviously, doing anything remotely, adult with a child is the most reprehensible thing in the world. I'm not saying that those things don't happen. They do. I just named two super popular cases, the Dutroux affair and the guy on the island, where it happened. My contention is with the occult aspect of it, where there is none. And these people claim that there is. There is no occultism. There is no witchcraft. There is no mysticism or esotericism attached to what was happening on that island or what Mark Dutroux was doing. None.
That they're looking at possibly, seeking legal ramifications. That's the only thing they could do. And in today's day and age, they're probably going to lose a lot of those cases. But this is what they're doing now, Jesse. This is what they're doing. They're trying to scare people by suing them if they don't go along with them. They're all liars. And recently they announced SatanCon. So let me touch on that. SatanCon, of course. Do you know about this, Jesse?
I do.
It's happening in Boston, April 28th and 30th, and it's completely sold out. It sold out. You can't get tickets. But not to worry, they said they're going to be back next year. And if restaurants or hotels or shops won't serve them, they want to sue you. Well, they're in for a big, big treat because a lot of people are going to hold fast in God's holy name and not serve them. That's the price they pay, right? They say we have freedom of speech. Then you have freedom to do what you got to do. Jesse, I want to rally back to that moment, those few minutes of that documentary, to get your take on what you heard that girl say about ritual sacrifices and the killing.
Oh, another 20-second take where she just goes, yeah, they're out there, doing bad things with kids and animals. Yeah, there it is right there. All right.
For
come on.
Lucifer.
Yeah, I agree too. As we look at that, we have different select groups in areas. So I think what needs to come out is a lot of, what would you call it, defining of the different groups that are going under different names who are all interconnected. And, what that girl is bringing out is satanic ritual.
So why don't you guys do it? don't like this former occultist. So why can't he name the groups? He was one of us. He should be able to name the groups. These groups that I'm supposedly not naming because I'm trying to lie to everybody and all that stuff. So expose us, name the groups. You won't.
Well, and that's a term that
there is
so
no
many
groups to
are
name.
afraid to speak forth or speak out about.
I mean,
They're
there are
afraid to say
occult
what
groups,
happens
but
in satanic
they're not
ritual.
involved in any of this.
And here we hear it from a young girl. You know, what happens? They're forced to have sex with, and she didn't say just adults. You know, she says sex with humans, sex with animals, you know, bestiality. So she brings out those things. And then, you know, what was required is, you know, of course, after the sex, they get pregnant. And then she says, what did they make her do? Abort the babies for ritual sacrifice. So, you know, we need to hear the testimonies of the survivors who are coming forward, speaking out about these things.
So this really exists, ladies and gentlemen, and some of you are quite aware of this, but we wanted to bring it to the forefront and shed a little bit more light.
Yeah, I used to study this stuff because I used to be big into the conspiracy thing, but as I got deeper, but this is when I was younger, when I was first starting out in the occult and stuff like that, but as I got deeper into the occult, deeper into the esoteric and the mystical aspects of the occult, not just the money spells and the love spells and all that, but going deep into grimoire tradition, going deep into theurgy, going deep into Goetia, you know, going deep into, you know, shamanism and hoodoo and things like that, and understanding what's going on behind the scenes, becoming intimately familiar with foundational texts like the 3 books of occult philosophy, or the Liber Gerardis, or the Hygromanteia, and, you know, some of these, you know, foundational preeminent texts that set the foundation for a lot of further occult texts that I promise you these two have not heard of. Or if they have heard of it, it was simply in passing. I promise you neither of them have read the 3 books of occult philosophy by Agrippa, or have even heard of Agrippa or Trithemius, or I don't know, Roger Bacon, or you know Westcott, or Giordano Bruno, or John Dee, or, you know, any, you know, Ficino or Ficino, however you say his name. They like, it's, these guys don't know anything about anything, but let's just keep watching. Whatever.
Rehash it and help you understand that they have their full foot forward, throttle, pedal to the metal for this whole agenda. Number one, they want to get you to submit and basically give in. You see it in clothing, in sports. It's coming at you in so many directions. They just want you to give up. But don't. Do not give up, ever. Because you have to ask yourself, would Jesus give up? Of course he wouldn't give up. He would fight for that flock of sheep. And if one sheep goes missing and goes astray, then he'd go after that sheep and bring it back to its flock. And then have a celebration and invite his friends over for a festival because he saved the life of that one sheep. So that's basically our job as well. Kind of like on our shoulders, our burden, where we have to find these certain sheep. And we're not calling people sheep, but it's just a reference of those people that are out there that are not thinking about it, that want to give up. You can't give up. We have to continue the fight because in the end, it's God who wins. And, you know, people were saying in the chat about the Satanic Bible. Does it exist? Where is it from? There is a Bible. And it was written by a man by the name of Anton LaVey. And I just happen to have a clip about Anton LaVey talking about the devil. Who is he? What does he mean to you? Listen carefully to what the founder of the Satanic Temple and the Satanic Bible has to say.
He's the founder of the Church of Satan.
Here's Anton LaVey.
Godhead resides within oneself. I believe that man creates gods in accordance with his own needs. And if he doesn't, someone else will create them for him.
Who or what is Satan to you?
Satan is the essence of that which dwells within myself.
Would you explicate this?
Satan is the pioneer, the inventor, Prometheus. Satan has always been the scapegoat, the other, as Thomas Saz, the psychiatrist, calls him. He has always been the opposition to what has been established at the time, the counterbalance that creates change, that creates evolution, that sets the climate socially for modification. Because without this so-called evil, there could be no change.
Mr. Love.
Without so-called evil, there would be no change. Jesse, comments on...
He didn't say much of anything. So, just a bunch of nonsense.
Tom Levine, what do you have to say, please?
Yeah, definitely. He brings out his ideology of the devil, but what's interesting is that, in some ways it matches up with Scripture. He says that, who is the devil? It's an essence within himself. We know Scripture talks about the possession of the human body, and is he saying that literally, he is the embodiment for the devil? That's very possible with, the occultic things that he was involved in, that he made that deal with the devil and, in fact, allowed the devil to dwell within him.
Sure.
There's an interesting story about Anton LaVey on how he passed away. It was told by a particular priest, a pastor, and I don't...
That should be your first issue. So the religion that is the rival religion of Anton LaVey, a member of that religion is telling the story, and not just any member, but a leader, a pastor, a priest, a bishop, whatever. Right? This isn't a Buddhist talking about Anton LaVey. This isn't an atheist saying this. It's not even Muslims and Jews saying this. So, biased, maybe?
I want to repeat that story. I want to save it because I'm trying to get him on the show to talk.
Oh, well, so the story he's talking about, I thought he was going to go into. The story he's talking about is how when Anton LaVey was dying, he apparently, on his deathbed, right at the moment that he was dying, he, was like, what have I done? Like his eyes widened as if he saw something like the demons coming to get him or whatever, and he, what have I done? What? Oh, it was all a mistake. It was all a mistake. Oh, and then he died. That is him dying, right? Like a cartoon. That's the story that you see how he's trying to make everything. That's nothing. We don't that didn't happen. First of all, I'm pretty sure unless he died in a hospital or something like that, there was probably no one around when he passed. Even if he was sick on his deathbed, I'm pretty sure he probably passed overnight or something like that when there was no one sitting watching him. I'm not an Anton LaVey expert. I'm not a Satanist. I don't care for Satanism. Well, at least atheistic Satanism. I have a lot of respect for theistic Satanists. They at least make sense. Atheistic Satanism doesn't make any sense to me. These people.
Talk about what
Let's just keep watching.
So it's going to be interesting. I don't want to give too much away. Some of you may have heard it. It's fantastic.
It's not.
And it just shows you the power of God Almighty who's working around this. And in today's day and age, they're so blatant. Again, the idea, I believe, Jesse, from what I was taught, is for maybe not so much Satan itself, but for the state to control your mind, for the state to control your well-being, for the state to control your thoughts, for the state.
Notice that he says that how he was taught. What were you trained in? What did you learn? I notice he never goes into any of that, what he's actually trained in, what he knows, what he's been learning. None of that.
To control everything, because with religion there is morality, there's things you can and cannot do. So the state therefore wants to take away religion and let you depend on them. So they're definitely poisoning the waters. But please, guys, don't feel that there's nowhere to turn. There's always a place to turn, and that's to God Almighty. So this is what I feel.
Someone in the live
is-
chat, well,
is
this isn't live,
their
but someone in the
overall,
chat put that
modus
it's the
operandi.
best
Of
story.
course,
It's not the best story.
that's the corporate sector, but then you have those behind, the occultists, who want to bring upon the biblical revelations, the end time prophecy, the Antichrist, the beast number, the plagues, the prophecies, and all that's coming. But we're hoping and praying that that's not it, that in fact it's 1,000 years of peace. And some may argue that with me and so forth. And you're entitled to your own opinion. That's the great thing about this world. You're entitled to your own opinion. We all agree on the Lord God Almighty. However, I think when the Lord hears you loud enough, and there is proof in the Bible many times where the Lord finds grace upon his people because he heard their cries and he heard their prayers and he's seen their sacrifice.
Most of that was during the Old Testament when God was closer to us, to humans. If you believe this, that was when he was literally like coming down and talking to people, or sending his angels down to talk to people. He came down to Moses in the burning bush, like that, like he would actually talk to his prophets and all that. That most of that was in the Old Testament. After the New Testament, he's not, he stopped speaking through prophets. He stopped like giving prophetic visions and all that other stuff. He stopped sending angels down. He stopped doing like it seemed almost to be a different deity. So keep that in mind. This was during the Old Testament. So when the Jewish law, when the Mosaic law had to be followed, but once the New Covenant, once Jesus came and he fulfilled the law, and he did away with the old law, and there was a new covenant and a new law, that a lot of the stuff that he just mentioned, or that he's referring to, he didn't mention it, but that he's referring to, that I just mentioned, was Old Testament. So
he's seen that they want another chance, so he gave it to them. So has the Lord heard our cries?
Absolutely.
Are we loud enough? That's the question, Jesse.
And I think the power is, I encourage people to look up testimonies of Satanists who have come to the Lord, because
I do too.
The Lord does exactly
too.
that. He hears their cries. He sees the things, that they've.
I do too. I recommend that people look that up, because if you are knowledgeable about the occult, if you actually have occult knowledge and you look these people up, what you're going to find out is that the vast majority, by far and large, I won't go as far as saying the totality, because that would mean that I've seen all their videos and everything like that, and I've talked to everyone who's done this, and I haven't. But I've yet to come across someone who was a legitimate occultist, like myself, an actual occultist who left occultism and went to Christianity. Everyone that I can find videos on that come across my feed on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, that come across my feed, and it says like X Witch, or X Witch exposes the New Age, or X Occultist, or something like that, they're always New Agers. They were always New Age. They weren't occultists. They were New Agers. They're on someone else's podcast and they're talking about the crystals and the chakras and the channeling and the yoga poses. They don't mention anything actually occultic. They don't mention anything actually part of esotericism, mysticism. They mention a bunch of New Age practices and techniques and methods. So I do recommend that everybody look those up, because if you are knowledgeable in the occult, you're not going to find much of any occultists leaving and going to Christianity. You'll find New Agers who dabbled with crystals and sound bowl healing, found that there was nothing there was nothing to it. It doesn't elevate you spiritually. You might feel good in the moment, sure. Sound bowl healing might be good if you had a stressful day at work, you need to come home, decompress, whatever. Because and you might not want to drink or do drugs or something like that, so you come home, or you don't exercise or whatever, so it might be a good way for you to relax and de-stress after a stressful day or whatever. But it's not going to elevate you spiritually. It doesn't get you closer to God or closer to source or whatever. Studying your chakras doesn't do it doesn't do anything spiritually for you. And these people find out that because they're looking for genuine spiritual connection. They think it's in the New Age. They go there, they don't find it. So the only other religion that they're really, truly familiar with is Christianity. Sure, you had a class on Buddhism in college. Ooh, wonderful. But you're not intimately familiar with Buddhism enough to want to try that next. So you run back to the religion of your ancestors, to the religion that's comfortable, Christianity. But let's continue.
Been engaged in, but he's always willing, to save and deliver with a mighty hand. And that's the time that we're living in, is that, we have a God who's willing to snatch people straight from the fire. The moment they say, Lord, I don't want this, I repent, I confess, the Lord literally, it says, in the book of Romans, that he violently seizes our sins and takes them by force.
I'm glad she said that, because I want to tell a story. I did that years ago, back when I left. So after getting trained in a coven in witchcraft and receiving the first degree initiations, I guess you can call it, and then I left for college. That coven, as most of you, if you're from any of my TikTok lives, I've told the story many times. That coven did not want to teach or talk about anything outside of witchcraft, right? And I was really interested, or at least becoming interested, in grimoire tradition, Western esotericism. So books like the Key of Solomon and the Liber Gerardus and the Hyger Mantea, stuff like that. They didn't want to talk about that. So when I got into college and I got away from the coven, I was finally able to learn the stuff that they didn't want to teach, but I didn't have anybody to teach me, right? I was learning on my own. But that's not the important part. The important part is people were telling me on the campus that I was going to, the school that I was going to, because I was offering readings on the campus. And I would have all kinds of students and teachers, all faculty, all coming to get readings. But there was a lot of people who would just send me emails and be like, what you're doing is wrong, this is evil, blah blah blah. And of course you're 18, 19, so you're still kind of impressionable a bit, so it was kind of getting to me. And I did, and being that I grew up Baptist, I kind of did what she said. I prayed to God and I was like, look, if this is wrong, if what I'm doing is wrong, show me. Right? You know how I think. I'm very analytical, very logical. Show me. Not just a Bible verse. God, you made me. You know my mind. You know what I need to be convinced. Show me that what I'm doing is wrong. Show me that that approaching you through magic is wrong, and I should approach you through religion. Right? 2 weeks later, I'm introduced to the 3 books of occult philosophy. Now, back then, it was the Donald Tyson version. That was the popular version at the time. Now it's the Eric Perdue version, if you have the money to buy it. But back then it was the Donald Tyson version, which has been out since like the early 90s or whatever. I went to college in 2007. And I was introduced to that book, and in in book 1, in the introduction, he talks about how Christians, or people who claim to be Christians, think that this stuff is evil. They don't know what they're talking about. They haven't studied our work like we've studied their work. Most Western esotericists are Christian or some form of Abrahamist. Excuse me. So I'm glad she said that, because I prayed a similar prayer and was actually shown that what I'm doing is not against God. That the practice of magic, that the stuff that you guys are claiming, the rise of Satanism might be against God, but magic itself, magic in general, the practice of magic is not against God. So,
that's what that word he takes away means in the book of Romans. Means that he violently seizes and grasps by force and removes our sin from us.
So if you don't think it exists, ladies and gentlemen, it does exist. They are pushing forward, and we're preparing you.
It does exist, but I don't like how he does this. I mean, it's his show. He can do whatever he wants, but also at the same time, it's a public show, and I have a show. I make content, so I'm free to criticize. And I don't like how he's doing this. Like they're not presenting any evidence, right? That's just like me saying aliens are real, and then I cut to a clip of Ancient Aliens where someone goes, yes, aliens are real, and then I go, see, there it is, guys, aliens are real, and that's it. Like, now I'm not saying I don't believe in aliens. It's ridiculous to think that we're the only beings out there. I don't think that you're channeling them and you're contacting them, but I do think that there's something out there. But that would be the equivalent of what he's doing. Just, there's aliens out there. Look at this guy on Ancient Aliens saying it. There's aliens out there. It must be true. Like, no, that's not evidence. Just someone saying it. Like, just these are two people making claims, right? This is what this is. This is two people making claims, showing clips of other people making claims. None of them are providing any sort of foundation. None of them did what I did earlier by showing Drake and why he's October's very own because he was born in October, or showing Moloch, if we hit the Moloch deity, and they were saying how it's based on the owl, and I was like, except for this one image here with this is actually Moloch. I mean, this just seems to be just some artistic whatever, but aside from this one image, there's no imagery, at least from ancient times. This is obviously not an ancient artwork. This is obviously, this is from dark art, satanic fantasy art, whatever. This is obviously modern. There's no like old art, like stuff like this from like back in the day that shows an owl and Moloch, right? They don't do stuff like this. They just make claims and expect you to believe them.
For it. This is what this show is for, the rise of Satanism, to explain to you that this has been going on for a very long time. But they're putting their foot to the metal. So you will see it everywhere. But make no mistake, just because they're doing it doesn't mean it's going to be manifested. You have to give your permission. Of your own free will, you have to go along with their ideas and ideology. I, however, say no. I do not give them permission. I do not give them authority. I do not give them dominion. I say no. You do not have permission to implement Lucifer or Satan into this world and bring upon destruction and bring upon slavery upon all mankind. I'm not in for it. I think there's good times coming for all of us. I think we need to be smiling and laughing and taking our families out and our pets and our friends, enjoying the water.
If it was that easy, then there wouldn't be a need for like exorcists or for you to pray things away. You could just say nope. I don't accept your curse, or I don't accept your possession, devil, and then he should go away. But nope. Seems that according to them, possessions aren't popular or common at all, but according to these guys, they are. So
enjoying the sunlight, enjoying the good things. God is great in all things. I want to show you the difference, Jesse, in artists. The difference in artists. Here's a clip of one artist by the name of The Weeknd, who has got great fame through a younger generation. And in his concerts, he does very satanic scenarios.
I'm interested in this because
now, I played this clip a few weeks ago, but I want to repeat it so you could understand if you missed it. This really happens. Take a look at The Weeknd at one of his concerts.
So other than the music that's playing over this, which obviously is not The Weeknd's music, this is a TikTok, as you can see here. This is a TikTok video, and so someone put that music over the video. So if you are familiar with The Weeknd, he does R&B type hip hop videos where he's essentially always talking about having sex and just being a total being a player, being the man to women. So there's probably some soft, sensual beat playing over this, like at the concert, not some demonic Asmodeus, Lucifer. I'm sure it's some sensual, type of a beat. It's not like, if you're familiar with The Weeknd's music, then I mean, I don't know what's performance this is, but I promise you it's not some demonic song. It's probably some sensual, he's got a girl over for the night. He's going to have sex with her, do some drugs, and go have sex with somebody else, then tell the first girl about it, and so. Satanas, Lucifer. What's right in front of us? What? I don't see. What? Him going? That's satanic. Yeah, people in robes is satanic. Like I don't. So
understand. Basically, he mentioned certain demons.
Yep.
You really believe? See, okay. This is the problem with boomers, with Gen Xers out here trying to make. he thinks that the Lucifer, Beelzebub, Asmodeus is from the concert. He's not. He must not be familiar with, and neither must she. They must not be familiar with TikTok and overlaying music on top of videos, like trending sounds. They must not be familiar, because he literally thinks that because he said he mentioned demons. In the clip that we saw, we heard nothing from The Weeknd. We heard no music from The Weeknd. Yet he thinks that the Asmodeus, Lucifer, Beelzebub is The Weeknd's voice. This is who people are believing.
And he has people dressed in robes. We did a decode on this. The moon, I talked about what that meaning is. It's not the moon. It's actually another planet. But it's, I think 2 or 3 shows ago, I touched on it. But this is what I wanted to just remind everybody. This is what they're doing. So when your children,
what are they doing?
Or your friends or family go to a concert with artists like this, not all, because not everyone is corrupt. A lot of them are.
Really? So then how do they make
good.
it?
I truly believe that.
How do they make it if they're not
I'm going to
corrupt?
show you what I mean. But when you go to these...
How do they make it to the top of a corrupt and satanic industry if they're not corrupt and satanic?
Things, you are giving permission. You are saying, yes, I allow you to come into my life. I allow you to haunt me. And I give you permission to come in.
Well, they pay to get in the door. You know, that devil takes that as willing consent. You're paying for it. You want it.
So you understand, it's part of it. Man, you need to say some prayers, some anointing, and if your kids come home and they were at one of these shows, pray over them. But even though you're praying over...
Earlier, you just said all you have to do is say, no, devil, I don't accept that. And he just goes away, right? Now, all of a sudden, like earlier I said, you shouldn't have to pray over it. You shouldn't have to have an exorcist. You should just be able to say it, because that's what he said. Now he's saying you got to pray it away.
For them, just keep in mind, it's of their own free will. They have to want to do it themselves. You could pray for them, of course, but you got to have them do it themselves. Would you agree with that, Jesse?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they have to make their own decisions, and, you know, there can be that headship covering, but, you know, if your children are willingly opening those doors, the enemy's going to get a foothold.
100%. Now, Jesse, we talked earlier about a certain topic that's near and dear to me because I researched it a lot. It was what I got into, and it's the supernatural, and it's about Ouija boards.
Yeah.
And
you see how vague and ambiguous that is, how macro that is. We talked earlier about something that I studied a lot and I got into, and that's the supernatural. Like nothing specific, just the overreaching supernatural. And now he's talking about Ouija boards, which I promise you, I won't say none. Okay, very, very, very few legitimate occultists use Ouija boards. There's no need. There is no need. There are far better, far more legitimate, far more reliable, far more efficient methods of spirit communication out there. The Ouija board, first of all, look at it. This says Hasbro, a game. This is made by a game company. It used to be made by the Parker brothers, the same company that made the Monopoly game, and here it is now made by Hasbro. This is a game. Yes, can someone with legitimate occult knowledge use this to contact spirits? Yes. But they wouldn't. Why would you want to sit there and spell out an entire conversation? Right? And it's not like, oh, it's just like writing a letter. No, this is much slower than writing a letter. Much slower than literally writing out every single letter. This is like 2 times slower than writing a letter. No one in their right mind is going to have a legitimate 2-way conversation with the spirit using a Ouija board. A legitimate occultist wouldn't, because there's far better methods out there. This is a mass-produced, made in a factory, mass-produced, probably on an assembly line, not like a conveyor belt type of a system. Not so there's no rituals done to these things. This is a mass-produced. Hasbro makes these in factories. They think that like these come out of witch shops, and like people are going down to their local witch shop and buying these. No, Even the ones that are sold at wood shops, they get them in bulk from suppliers who get them from Hasbro or the Monopoly guys, Parker Brothers. So crazy. No legitimate occultist is using Ouija boards, or very, very, very few.
I talked a lot because I did a lot of case studies on this, and I studied this for many, many, many years and did a lot of investigations. And some of the things I come across is, do you know that by using a Ouija board, documented cases show that it takes up to 7 years for a haunting to happen?
Wow.
7
nice cop out.
years.
Nice cop out. Nice cop out for people who tried a Ouija board, nothing happened, and they're saying nothing happened. Now they're saying, oh, it takes 7 years. So basically, they'll just wait until any bad thing happens in your life and go, see, that's the Ouija board. Like, bro, come on. And they probably pick 7 years because it's probably super, super rare for someone to go that long without having something pretty bad happening to them. And bad doesn't always have to mean like physically hurt, like a car accident. It could just mean like, you lose a relationship, that you thought was going strong, a job that you thought you were doing phenomenal at, and, everything was going great and they just let you go. They'll, anything to put it on the devil. See, I told you it was the devil. Like, how do you know that? How do you know that? But
interesting. It's an interesting number.
There won't be any explanation, I promise you.
Sevens and the supernatural.
He will not explain why.
7 years. So you could play with the Ouija board today and nothing happens for 7 years. Then the haunting begins.
Why?
And I want to talk about what just happened. It's in a lot of news, including the New York Times.
Boom, just moves on to the next thing.
The New York Times
just makes a claim and then moves on.
28 girls taken to hospital for anxiety, fainting over the use of Ouija boards at a school in Colombia.
And that's another thing. No offense. I'm not, I don't have any prejudice or anything like that towards any other countries or anything like that. But but stories like that only come out of other countries, right? We never hear stories like that coming out of somewhere where it would be relatively easy for us to verify. We don't hear stories like this coming out of the UK. We don't hear stories like this coming out of Europe. We don't hear stories like this coming out of certain parts of South America. We don't hear stories like this coming out of certain parts of Africa or Australia. It's always out of the parts of South America where it would be really hard to verify, or the parts of Africa where it's really hard to verify, where no one has a modern day phone. Everyone has Motorola Razrs from 2002 that have, a 1 megapixel camera, right? No one has a Galaxy, S23 Ultra or an iPhone. I don't know. I don't use Apple, but I think it's the 14 Max Pro or whatever. Whatever's the latest iPhone out right now, no one has that, right? Or even, a phone from the last, 3 to 5 years. Everyone has phones from 2003 and, flip phones that take crap photos, apparently, because those stories only come out of those types of areas. And whenever we have images, they're always terrible, bad. It's like, come on, man. Come on. Where's the stories from New York City where everyone has an iPhone, 14? Where are those stories? Right?
30 girls were reportedly hospitalized after they played with Ouija boards at their school in Colombia. This is the New York Post.
Wow.
They had 28 possible cases of anxiety, and they were taken. The current conditions of the girls who were hospitalized have not been made public. So we don't even know what's going on yet with these girls. So we ask you to please say a prayer for them, because Ouija boards are real, folks.
Well, yeah, they are real. You're looking at it right there.
They're to these boards.
They're real.
Portal. They're a
doorway.
They're
not a portal. They're not a doorway.
Allow these entities in.
No, they're not.
Satanists don't even use Ouija boards.
At least you know that.
Those are the
highest levels we don't,
No,
when they want to talk with the devil, they
don't say we, because you weren't in any high level. You've not added anything to this conversation at all. You've added nothing to the conversation.
They just talk with the devil.
I never.
And see, she just said if we want to talk with the devil, we just talk with the devil. Remember earlier when I said that little satanic group that they interviewed, or that the news interviewed, and he was like, see, they they said it. They don't worship Satan, so they must not worship Satan, right? And I was like, this girl's like just some atheistic, nobody. That's what she was. I'm not trying to be mean, but that's what she was. This lady here. She's we. There is no we. And then also, she said that if they want to talk to Satan, they just talk to Satan. Remember when I was like, there's a darker version of New Age where it's New Age, it's fluffy, it's it's simple and easy, but it's on the dark side, right? You can't just talk to Satan. If it was that easy, there would be a lot more billionaires in the world. There'd be a lot more, athletes and singers and dancers, but there's not. It's not that easy just to just close your eyes and want to talk to Satan. You have to go through ritual. Satan needs to be, just like any spirit, needs to be contacted. That goes for your ancestors or your spirit guides or your holy guardian angel. You can't just talk to them. You have to connect. There's a way to connect to them through ritual. You have to contact them through ritual. There's no way to just close your eyes and just be sorry. That's a very New Age thing, and that's what she's talking about. Dark New Age.
A Ouija board.
It's ridiculous.
To communicate with anything. Never.
It's kind of like they're all like those unclean. I call them little chicken demons.
And he's making it seem like we don't Satanists and occultists don't use Ouija boards because they're so like, oh my God, this is really a portal. No, it's because there's much better, more reliable methods of spirit communication. Nobody, especially occultists, has time to sit there and spell out entire paragraphs and paragraphs of responses and answers and things like that to questions and all that. I mean, unless the answer is yes, no, or just like a couple numbers, you're going to need to spell out entire words. So no one has the time, especially if you have family, a business or a job or a social life. You're not going to be sitting there trying to spell out words. So
it's almost like you open up this door and walk into the chicken pen.
It's hurting my ear.
And expect to be okay after that.
Yeah, listen, you cannot control who comes in or who goes out.
Yes,
Even
you
in the
can.
highest levels of the occult. When you're doing certain rituals, especially Solomonic magic, you're dealing with sigils, you're dealing with certain formulas, routines, you're dealing with grimoires that are very ancient and old. You're following protocol to the best, to those that came before you that were masters and witches and warlocks.
Yes.
And you're summoning a particular deity, so they know what to expect.
Not a
as
deity.
opposed to these Ouija boards, which you don't know. A lot of horror movies that are made are based on
I'm surprised
these
he knows
Ouija
that.
boards.
I'm surprised he knows that.
Don't use them. And if you know anyone who has one, get rid of it. You know what I mean?
But
And
yeah,
say a
don't use
prayer
them
and
because
anoint
they're
yourself.
they're
And ask the
low
Heavenly
level.
Father to come into your life, because these things will wreak havoc. And now it's
But I noticed that he didn't condemn the grimoires. I noticed he didn't condemn the grimoire magic and the magic of the people who came before. It's funny that he did the foundation thing that I do. There's something established that people came before did it, so that way it works and it's not something pulled out of someone's ass. I'm very, very, very surprised that he knows that. Which means one of two things: either he is knowledgeable in true occult stuff, and he's just playing a fool for money and view, because the views go to this stuff. Views go to this dumb, low-hanging fruit, low IQ, I don't have to prove it, just believe me what I say. That's what the views. People like me don't get the views. People who actually put the legitimate information out there, provides the foundation, provides the sources, we don't get the views, right? It's these people. So if he does know about occultism, he's willfully and consciously playing ignorant for the views, or he may have recently read about the Key of Solomon or a grimoire tradition and things like that, or maybe even had someone on the show who was knowledgeable and gave him a bit of a download, like a rundown on what happens with Grimtrad, and that's where his knowledge comes from. But either way, I'm very surprised.
public. Again, the
We're almost done
rise
here, guys. I
of
know
Satanism is everywhere.
We're going on 2
And to
hours here, and this
go
video
back
is
to what I
only
said. Is everyone
not
in
even an
Hollywood
hour
or
long.
music bad? No, they're not bad. One particular person which I enjoy watching is Denzel Washington.
Well, actually, technically, this is kind of the end right here. I mean, I guess we'll go ahead and watch the Denzel clip, but this is kind of the end. After this, it's more just where you can find these people, events that are coming up and stuff like that. So we might just be able to end right here. Well, not right at this moment. I'm gonna let you hear the Denzel part, and then there's something I want to say about that.
I like his movies. And I
about
don't
an
know,
hour. There's
much
what a
about
little over an hour of
scandals
commentary
or
that I
any
have here.
Satanism, but I do know he likes to do speaking engagements, and he really talks highly about the Lord. So
Does
I have
he,
a
though?
clip of a speech that he made, and I want to share it with everybody because it has a lot of meaning to me personally, and hopefully you'll connect with it. This is Denzel Washington. Take a look.
Number one, put God first. Put God first in everything you do. Everything that...
Now notice something, right? Notice that this video with Denzel speaking, and he mentions God, the music is very soft and very emotional and very, but the other one with The Weeknd was Asmodeus, Lucifer, Beelzebub. Notice that, right? Notice that. It's very easy to sort of put your own spin on something when there's music over it, right? When there's certain kinds of music over it. The Weeknd's video that we saw, he wasn't doing anything. Let me see if I can go back. He wasn't doing anything satanic. Where was it? Right here. He wasn't doing anything satanic in this. Singing to the crowd. Probably Mars. He looks at the crowd. Got the mic in his hand. The most they can probably say is he went, ah.
So basically, he meant.
So the music there, and then.
Out of college, I had a 1.7 grade point average. I hope none of you can relate.
See? Now, I'm not going to say that the stuff that Denzel talks about in this video is bad. It's actually really, really good advice. But what makes you think Denzel's talking about the Christian God? He never mentions Jesus. He never mentions Christ. He never mentions, Jehovah or Yahweh or Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh or, the Tetragrammaton or Agla or Adonai or any of the sacred names of God or names that Christians or Jews or whatever. He didn't call Allah. He didn't, mention anything other than God. Right? So what makes you think that it's the Christian God, especially for an A-list actor like Denzel, who made it to he gets paid between 20 and 25 million per film, gets back-end box office profits. He's one of the last movie stars. He is an A++ lister. He is the apex of acting. Dramatic acting, anyway. He is the apex. And so these Christians believe that he got there without getting involved in the satanic industry the way these other artists have to? How? That doesn't make any sense. Because he put God first? How do you know it's the Christian God? He just said God. He didn't say Christ or Jesus or anything like that. You're just assuming that it's the Christian God. What? Because there's nice inspirational music over it? Just like you were assuming that The Weeknd was doing something demonic just because there was evil seeming music over it. That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense.
At a 1.7 grade
I mean,
point
this
average.
video is
sitting
quite
in my mother's
common.
beauty shop.
I don't know if you guys. I mean, it's kind of inspirational, but it's a pretty common video. So I don't know if you guys want to actually sit through it, but you can just Google Denzel's speech. But I think I think they're pretty much done here.
And said, how can he be successful in Hollywood? Let me explain something that I found very interesting. Whether it be Hollywood,
he answers
sports, business, politics, there's always going to be a selected few that'll have God and his angels protecting them.
What makes you think Denzel Washington? I mean, I'm not saying he's not a Christian. He probably is, but you don't know that. What makes you think that Denzel Washington is talking about the Christian God? right? If this would like if this was The Weeknd and he said, you know, put God first, they would say he's talking about their God. He's talking about like their. See, guys, they use inversion. So when they mean God, they mean something else. But because it's Denzel Washington and there's inspirational music over it, you think that it's the Christian God? Why? Why? Because I've seen videos where people will say like, oh, well, you know, because just like someone did to him, someone must have asked in the chat, like, how can Denzel be literally, like I said, the top of the top in Hollywood, but still, you know, be Christian or whatever. I've heard, you know, conspiracy theory videos where they try to say things like sort of like what he just said, how God sort of lets them slip through the cracks or whatever, for what, to get a Christian message out there. Denzel Washington doesn't do that. Like, he's not going around preaching the gospel. So it can't be to get the Christian message out there. So like that sort of response is shaky, but we'll see what
that
he says.
allow them to be in these worlds for whatever reason. Imagine how many lives, how many people Denzel has touched with that speech. But if he wasn't an actor,
okay, so I mean, maybe I'm not God, so I'm not going to pretend to think like God. But you want me to believe that God gave Denzel Washington the last 30, 40 years of success in Hollywood just so he can get to his alma mater or whatever school that was and tell a speech that might save 2 or 3 souls? Maybe God thinks like that. But I doubt that God would have allowed someone to go through a satanic industry, make millions of dollars from that satanic industry just to get to 2 people that have nothing to do with that industry. They're at a school graduation. He could have had those kids go, or someone else come into their life to save their soul. It didn't have to be Denzel Washington.
they would never listen to that speech.
Yeah.
That one speech.
Not always.
In fact,
or else parents would be ineffective, mentors would be ineffective, older brothers or sisters would be ineffective, cousins, aunts, uncles, friends would be ineffective. If people only listen to celebrities, then, you know, no one would be able to convince anybody of anything, right? So I'm sure God could have put someone else into, you know, whomever he's claiming that Denzel was there to save. I'm sure God could have figured it out.
before I became a Christian, what he said is, I may never have stuck with God, but God always stuck with me. It destroyed my life because he was right. And if he never became an actor, we would never listen to that. But because he has, more people flock to his words and what he's saying. So is it possible, Jesse, in your opinion, that the Lord will protect us, will watch over us, and help certain individuals in certain fields of this world to get his message across, whether it's 10, 20, or 50 years later?
Absolutely.
See?
I mean, that's your and my
essentially what I said.
testimonies. You know, we were in the system and in the occult, and yet God, you know,
You were in the
brought
New
us
Age.
out to bring.
The both of you were in the New Age, with the exception of the surprising basic knowledge that George had on Grimstrat, and it was basic. I was surprised that he even had that knowledge. Other than that, there's no indication that any of these people, either of these two, were in the occult like proper. They were in the New Age, most likely.
Forward our testimonies about it and about the reality of it. You know, he saved us and delivered us out of that. You know, just like Denzel says, you know, that
Denzel.
there were things in his life that were not pleasing to God. Yet God,
on his name.
you know, prophesied over
Denzel.
him
No,
through.
you're going to listen, lady. He's a black man. Denzel. What is he? What is he, from Sweden? Denzel Washington. Put some respect on his name. Denzel Washington. Just kidding.
A woman. And what happened, you know, years later, he's now serving the Lord, just as
No,
she
he's not.
prophesied.
No, he's not. Where do we see Denzel serving the Lord? Where? I mean, where? Do you know his personal life, lady? I don't, but I mean, he's not doing it in public, I can tell you that. Telling people at a college graduation to put God first doesn't mean anything. He's not telling them to be a Christian, to read your Bibles every day, to fellowship with other Christians, to pray fervently, to stay steadfast and remain strongly in the Lord and the power of his might and all that other stuff. He's not saying any of that. He just said put God first. Could be any God, but
put God first in everything you do. It's powerful. I heard that speech before I turned to the Lord. I was still stuck in the occult, but it stuck with me. So I say this to you and everyone watching. If you're on the fence, if you're under stress, if you're under anxiety, if you feel the walls are caving in, if you feel there's just too much going on around the world with the rise of Satanism, know that God is good and God is there and God will be there for you. But you have to be in prayer and open up to him. Have a relationship with him, and beautiful things, miracles will happen. Man, great show. You know, just want to let everybody know it's all around us. It's everywhere. But in the end, God wins. Jesse, anything you want to add about what we're talking about here tonight?
I think that's just it. You know, remembering that God is so amazing and so good, and his love knows no height, no depth.
Can you
no
tell
breadth,
us something?
No width.
Like, give us something.
And, you know,
that's so
even you
generic
and I,
and
who
so
were
basic.
into the occult for so many years.
No, you weren't.
And, you know, when we chose to come out, you know, the Lord just brought us out with a mighty hand.
Oh, wow.
And remembering that no matter what you've done, you know, no matter how bad it is,
very vague,
that
very
all we have
ambiguous,
to do is confess our sins,
macro.
and the Lord
Thanks.
is faithful
Thanks
to
that.
cleanse us, and, you know, from all unrighteousness. So praise the Lord. Praise the Lord for his great mercy to us and his loving kindness that knows no bounds.
Someone said pick a lane, Jesse. Man, I agree. You got to pick a lane. You got to pick a lane. And pick the right lane, because good things will happen. We do win in the end. But you got to have faith, because it's been a very long fight, thousands of years, but the time has come.
Yeah,
And
they've
in
been
the
saying
end,
that for thousands of years.
We shall win. We are winning. But that's on a political aspect that I cannot talk about on YouTube. I save that for Monday. We'll touch on it a little bit tonight on the after show, Jesse. Right after this, 9 o'clock, we're going to go to Patreon. We're going to have a Q&A, an open...
All right, it's pretty much done. There's 3 minutes left, but I'm quite sure I'll skip up another minute. I'm sure it's...
Audience, it's going to be a treat. We're going to have luncheons. We're going to go out.
So it's done. So yeah, there you have it. These people don't know anything about Satanism. They don't know anything about the occult. She did not add anything to this conversation at all. And I mean, if you disagree, please let me know in the comments. But she was basically there just to agree with everything he was saying. Her comments were 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds long. You know, yeah, you know, if whatever he said, she would just be like, yeah, you know, that's just it. You know, you gotta be strong in the Lord. You know, he's great. He loves us. And that, or yeah, you know, she's really out here showing us that, you know, ritual abuse is a very real thing. Yeah, I think we should just talk about that more. Yeah. And it's like, what? Do you have anything constructive to add? Do you have anything to build this conversation? No, nope. Just cheerleading him on. Like, come on. This wasn't an interview. This wasn't a discussion. This was just him presenting, him making claims, showing videos of other people making claims, and then her agreeing with both of their claims. That's it. So, yeah, we don't accept that over here. But thank you all for viewing the video. If you like this type of content, please do like and subscribe. I'm also over on TikTok, also under The Mystic Rebel. I'm also on Twitch under The Mystic Rebel, and I also have a website, themysticalrebel.com. So please do follow me on all those platforms to stay up to date. Most of my content comes out on TikTok. I really need to get on YouTube, but I go live more than regularly making content, and I don't have a stream key, so you know, it's kind of hard to go live on YouTube without a stream key. But thank you all for being here, and let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. If you agree with either of these two, if you liked what they had to talk about, if you believe what they had to talk about, if you think I'm wrong, please do let me know. I'm open to a discussion, but please do bring receipts. Please do bring foundation. Please do bring sources. Don't just tell me that I'm wrong and it's because the Bible says so, right? But yeah, so I'm going to close it out here. Thank you all, and I'll see you in the next one. As always, seek the mysteries. Peace.